Hi, this is Chris of Wilson Wildlife Sculpture. In this video, I'm going to show my emerging series of works carved in bark. This is a very special series of mine that I've been influenced by Michelangelo in his Bound Slave series, where subject matters are retained in the subject matter in the material they're carved from, and the subject matter is confined, or in this instance, trying to escape the material that they're carved from. So I use cottonwood bark on this piece. I'm going to show several pieces in this video, all in the same series of emerging. There's a swallow behind me, which I recently finished. But I actually went back and improved all these pieces. And they're all three of them can be, actually this one can't, but they can be hung on the wall as well. This one I put bark on the bottom, and it is, I think it adds to the presence of the piece. It looks much better hung on the wall. Gosh, I have a branch that goes up here, and I forgot to include it in this video, but I'll include another video. I make all my pieces come apart using tubing. That's how I transport my work. And it's just years of experience assembling something like this. But again, this is one of my favorite series of works. On Instagram, I had an emerging quail that has received over 57 million views. So I appreciate your views here, as well as your comments and likes, so I can improve. I'm fairly new to YouTube. So please give me your feedback and hit that subscribe button if you see value in anything I offer. So thanks for your support. So I'm just going to talk about a little bit about my concepts, my craftsmanship, my forms. Those are the three necessary ingredients for good sculpture and wood carving. So these are wood carvings and sculptures. I started carving when I was 10 years old, but I also have been doing sculpture all my life, 30 years professionally. I have a master's degree in sculpture, but my favorite process is subtractive. Okay, although there's a lot of additive processes in adding this bark, because it's not just carved from one piece of bark. This is cottonwood bark, one piece. It came from a big piece in my big tree in Montana, and I bought it from an individual out there, and he sent it. You can see some of the rough texture. You can see the back of it. You can also see how I hang the pieces. In this case, I signed it in the back. Usually I sign my works in the front, but it has a beautiful grain. Cottonwood is easy to carve. I have an oil finish on it, which I describe in a lot of my videos. I added this metal vine because I like to show a little bit of nature with my work. In all three of these pieces, the birds are highly threatened. Bobwhite quail, barn swallows, and the last piece is actually an endangered bird, a red-cockaded woodpecker, which I'll show. So yeah, I added the bark on this piece. The only thing I want to do next is add a little oil. If you wet the wood with your finger, okay, just moisten a little bit, and you can see how the grain will get darker. So I know if I add a little oil on that, I've sanded that into the bark, it will complement the top of the bark. It's actually different kinds of bark on the bottom. This is hickory shag bark, which is very hard and dense. So it's glued together. I have metal pins as well holding it together. But this is again a little tiring to hold, so I'm going to show a different sculpture. This is emerging bobwhite quail. And behind me you can see emerging swallow. This piece I can rotate. It'll also hang on the wall, but I'm going to rotate it so you can see it from all sides. And freestanding works are meant to be viewed in the round. Although this is more of a frontal piece. In fact, I designed it not to be seen from the back at all. The swallow comes off its base, and it'll hang on the wall. And I recently demonstrated how I do the techniques of carving the back of the cottonwood bark. It's kind of like an impressionistic cloud. I wanted the bird emerging from it. one thing it has going for it is the complementary colors of the orangish warm cottonwood and the iridescent blue. So I try to look at the color, the composition, I look at the elements and principles of art. That's the elements are the lines, the shapes, the forms, textures, colors, and the principles of organization describe how the elements are being used in a work. That is the how I use the forms. Okay, these look like flocks of birds, very impressionistically, but it's I've repeated different shapes, okay, and movement in this, and nature sculpted part of this, and I sculpted the rest. So it's just like the bark of a tree. It's this is combining hyperrealism, impressionism, and even some abstraction. So again, about the principles, I try to have a unified composition with variety. I try to have asymmetrical balance. So it's different on either side of a central axis, but it's a balanced piece. This is balanced by steel in the base. This will come off its base for support. It's a very complex piece to put together. It's one of the reasons I'm proud of it, because it defies gravity and the bird's in flight. So I'll show you how I take it apart here in a second. Maybe you can learn from me in that respect as well. So yeah, it has a lot of contrast, and I actually experiment a little bit with using a stain and an oil in one finish, and I have that in one of my videos where I had to add a little red wood stain here, and that helps warm it up because this was white oak, I believe, and it needed some more reddish to complement the rich hues in the barn swallow. So let me show you how I take it apart. Very easily here, although 2 hands is recommended. Okay, so I had it like this in the exhibition for quite a while. This is an exhibition called 3 Billion, and that marks the number of birds that we've lost in North America in the last 50 years. This is an alarming rate. And grasslands birds, like I'm depicting in this video, not all of them, I'm going to depict a red-cockaded woodpecker, but barn swallows and bobwhite quail, their populations have declined quite a bit. Now, where I am in the south, bobwhite quail in Georgia were hunted quite a bit in South Georgia, and their program is to bring back quail on plantations and private property, and that's helping. And just like barn swallows, there's nest box programs to helping them out, but unfortunately, the population is almost 95% in decline. That's what some reports show. It's such a beautiful bird. I mean, I used to see huge flocks of these birds under bypasses of highways. Once there was a castle in, I think it was an old Spanish fort in Louisiana, and this was during migration, and I saw tons of swallows flying there. And this is a migrating bird. Barn swallows migrate. They're very fast flying. I'll try to show you some more details of it here. Might be a little too close and sometimes to the camera. So this was a challenging to put together, and getting all that detail carving from bark was a challenge, and getting the detail in the bark. So that's how I take it apart. It will hang on the wall like this. I had hangers in it. I had to plug those holes. I think I showed that in a different video. I show how I finish it and sanded it, so you really can't tell. It had a hanger. But in the back of the sculpture here, it has a hanger. And if I have time, I might hang these on the wall so you can see these afterwards. But I want to show you the last piece. I'll show you how this piece comes apart too. So basically, I just lift up my pieces, and I use square tubing down here. This had to be reinforced with JB Weld. I wanted to really make sure, it's defying gravity, and it's pretty good weight there being an oak. So I didn't want it to fall, and things tend to tend to fall down over time. So let me put these down and I'll show you the next piece. The next piece is a emerging red-cockaded woodpecker. So here's a granite base. Again, I have tubing there so that the mount can come off. I will put this one down and show you the last piece. This is the emerging red-cockaded woodpecker. Try to show that from different angles, perhaps get a little bit closer and lower to it so you can see, because it doesn't have to be that high. There we go. So this piece I just finished. It depicts an endangered species, the red-cockaded woodpecker, which lives also here in the South in Georgia. I carved it from emerging from bark, but I used oak down here. This came out a little bit light. I might put a little oil on it. I just waxed it. I didn't want it too dark because I wanted some contrast and I want to see what it would look like. I also recreated a branch out of bark, but I have metal for support, and I added this Spanish moss and leaves, which I fabricated all out of different kinds of metal. I even make the moss out of wood shavings. Let's see if you can see that detail a little closer here. Bird has its mouth open, very animated. That's the male. Again, this was a frontal piece. It hung on a wall. See the hanger back here? I disguised it with moss too. But now it's freestanding, so I want it to look good from all angles. And this was another piece where I used metal for support. I pinned it together in different pieces of bark. Although I think the woodpecker is one piece. Sometimes I did it a while back. I just finished the piece, but I had carved the woodpecker a while back, so I can't remember. And so it comes off its base, like here, and it can be hung on a wall just like that. Okay, for a different kind of presentation. A lot of people have more space on their walls, so I like to give my collectors that option. And it is sometimes they don't need bases. Bases can be a little precarious. I do like making granite though for bases, and I use felt in the bottom. This has a little metal leaf, which complements all the habitat up here. Originally, I thought it had too much going on. It was too much texture up here with the Spanish moss. But I think it's simplified, and your focal point goes down to the bird, goes to the eye, then to this negative space between this oak and bark. So I like it better now. I'm happy with it. I think my favorite is my emerging swallow, and I'm interested to see what you like best. Although my emerging quail are my most popular pieces. I also have emerging pieces on my website. I have some works in museums, my emerging crow. A lot of my emerging work has sold. And I have a whole category on my website called emerging sculptures. So let me turn these around a little bit, and I will show you in comparison, again, the quail. These are all life-size subject matter. Okay, there's the Bobwhite Quail. This is a little bit bigger piece hung on the wall. Actually, it's pretty close to the same size. It was a bigger piece of bark, but they could be companion pieces. I don't think I'm going to hang them on the wall in this video because I already have my light set up here, and it's challenging to move lights and stuff when doing film work. So this is a new light, by the way, and I hope you will be able to better see the detail of my work without too many harsh shadows. So please give me your feedback on any of my videos and content. Again, I try to make my works be conceptual, the ideas of the birds being contained or escaping from the piece of wood. I try to have good craftsmanship in how I sand and polish the forms and get good anatomy, especially on the eyes and bill. It's extremely important to get those dimensions right if you want it to look like the bird. And I try to show finally, good compositions and forms, which I talked about, the negative space between the birds and the habitat, and the way the forms complement each other, concave and convex surfaces, textures, how light bounces around pieces. And then finally, I try to show good concepts with my work. I'm picking birds that are highly vulnerable and they need our protection. By showing them emerging from bark, it's material the trees are made from, or the part of a tree, and it's trees are and habitat are very important for these birds. In fact, the number one reason for the loss of the birds and decline of them is because of habitat loss. So hopefully by showing some of the habitat and this method of being contained, it'll remind viewers the need to protect the natural world. My hope is to show the beauty of the birds so we can value them and appreciate them. A lot of people don't see quail and red-cockaded woodpeckers or even barn swallows anymore. I used to see tons of them. I still see a lot of quail in South Georgia, not so much in North Georgia where I live, but I hardly ever see a woodpecker like this, red-cockaded woodpecker. I'll see downy woodpeckers because they come to the feeders, but it's important, I believe, for all these animals to exist and to prosper because they were here before us. These are living dinosaurs, and they offer so many good things for for balance of nature and birds. Without birds, I think we'd have not near as a happy, peaceful life. And they spread seeds, they eat insects, they control insects, and do all kinds of good for this world. So, if you like the content of this video, please hit that like button, or even better, subscribe. I'll feature more videos on how I make these pieces. Usually I'm working so hard, it's hard for me to get away and focus that time, but I enjoy making these videos and showing my work and really appreciate your feedback. So thanks a lot for your support and have a great day.